Why do I still take things so personally? I'm in my 40s. Shouldn't I be over this by now? Does this sound familiar? So many of us struggle, whether it's a friend not showing up for us, a colleague at work being maybe a little bit short with us, or a text message that doesn't get answered in a timely fashion. And we're suddenly spiraling, imagining that we've done something wrong. It feels personal. But here's the thing, it's usually nothing to do with us. Why do we do this? It usually goes back, way back to our childhood. As kids, we are literally wired to think everything is about us because we're developing our sense of self. Now, if we don't have adults that are emotionally connected, helping us process things, we don't learn to self-soothe. Instead, we internalize the feelings, feeling like we're broken, like there's something wrong with us, like we're the problem. Let's be honest. Maybe if you're a child of the 60s or 70s or 80s, you might even feel like you raised yourself. There was nobody emotionally there for you. Now, if our emotional needs are met, then we will naturally mature, and we will mature from and out of this. But what happens if our emotions aren't met? Then we carry this pattern into adulthood. We keep taking things personally, and honestly, it's exhausting. But here's the thing, people's behavior is a reflection of them. It's about their experiences, their emotions, their communication style. When you start to think about things in this way, when you start to understand that we all bring our own experiences to the table, you can start to feel a sense of sort of calm and understanding, and hopefully take things less personally. So how do we, practically speaking, take things less personally? If what I've been saying sounds really familiar to you, what do? How do we move past that inner dialogue that it's about us, we've done something wrong, we're broken? Firstly, stop the story. We need to become really aware of when we're doing this and what situations. Our brain loves a story and it believes what we tell it. So if you're constantly telling yourself that it's your fault, that you've done something wrong, of course that becomes your reality. When we don't question these thoughts, we start acting as if they're true. Who hasn't done that whole thing where you just imagine that you've actually had a massive falling out with a friend when actually nothing is wrong? Next time you catch yourself personalizing something, pause, ask yourself, do I actually know this for a fact? Or is this a story? Is this just something that I'm telling myself? As an example, a friend of mine just never shows up for me when I need her. She must not care about me. What if she's struggling? What if she genuinely thinks she's been supported but in another way? What we start to do here when we start to become aware and we question the thought is we literally interrupt the pattern. Now that might have sounded quite dramatic, banging on a desk, but actually what that did was it just was enough to stop us and make us not think about what we're thinking. And that can be a great method. It's a really strong method in NLP to help us break a pattern of thought, to leave space and room for something else to be there. Because if you are spiraling, if you are in this thought process, just actually distract yourself with something else. Now that might be a different conversation. It could be going to make a cup of tea, but it's scientifically proven that we can change our neuro pathways and we can start thinking different things. And the best and first way to do it is to just interrupt that thought process. So you can do it by physically changing what you're doing, or actually just starting with the questioning of that thought and the reality of what's really going on. Have you heard of the works by Byron Katie? Again, this is a really simple questioning technique that can really help break a pattern of thought. If you haven't, take a look. I will be covering this in another video another time, but the 4 simple questions that help you check in with what's really going on and break that initial pattern of thought. What else can we do? Well, this practical step might feel a little uncomfortable for some, and it might feel that it actually could arouse conflict, and that is practice asking directly. We can avoid this because it can feel really uncomfortable to ask a friend why they haven't responded or why they've not been there for us. But assumptions damage relationships. Instead of just wondering, just ask. Example is, hey, I've noticed you've been a little bit distant lately. Is everything okay? So this does two things. It can really help strengthen a relationship, but it can also re-cement some of your own boundaries. This practical tip is really good if you're feeling like your boundaries aren't being respected. Actually, by just seeking clarity, this can really help re-establish those boundaries that are important to you. And as they say, assumptions are the mother of all. Third practical tip is you might like to use a mantra or a new saying. So when you start to work towards becoming really aware of this feeling, and when you feel like there is something, you're blaming yourself and you're thinking it's about you, then replacing that with a mantra or a saying can really help change how you think and feel. A few examples might be, you could question what else might be going on for that person. This isn't entirely about me. This isn't mine to carry. Their reaction is about them, it's not about me. Not everything requires my emotional energy. It might be something like, there's more to this story than I can see. You might like to say to yourself, people show up based on their experiences. So there's lots of different mantras, sayings that you can use. It's important to find one that A, you can remember, and B, that feels right for you. But the most important thing is to remember is that we all show up based on our experiences, our belief system. And so when you're thinking that things are about you, often they're not. The first place to start is to start noticing how often you take things personally. When you catch yourself thinking this is when you use your mantra or your saying. The reason we do this is it helps to rewire our brain. And over time, you'll be less reactive and defensive. And this is just amazing because it stops you just feeling exhausted. When we take so many things personally, it's exhausting. But the great news is it isn't too late. It's never too late to change how we think. It takes a bit of work, it takes a bit of focus, and it certainly takes some self-awareness. So if you want to take things less personally, remind yourself to stop the story, ask directly, and use the mantra, the saying that speaks to you and will help you take things less personally. Now, if this resonates with you, let me know in the comments. If you have a mantra or a saying that's been working really well for you, please share it. If you like this, subscribe, there'll be more. Please share with your friends. See you next time.